Halloween is the one day a year where a girl can get dressed up like a total goth and no other girls can say anything about it. Hey ghosts! Did you know it's nearly Halloween? That's right, it is not just a film genre invented by Tim Burton. It's a real thing. But how did this macabre holiday creep into this moment in time? This is the history of Halloween. Histoween, if you will. No, that doesn't really work. According to History.com, Halloween stems from the ancient Celtic tradition of Sabhain. That's right, I invented Halloween, or at least my ancestors did. And I didn't even know because of all the historical oppression and stripping of Scottish culture. At one point, we were actually on the brink of losing Scotland altogether. But then Shrek happened and everyone remembered that Scotland was a thing again. I looked Sabhain up in my Gaelic dictionary and found that it also means November. Apparently, Sabhain marked the end of the summer months and the beginning of the dark months. This reminds me to add vitamin D supplements to my shopping list. Also, guess whose videos are going to get a lot darker and harder to film? Yay, winter! Celebrants believed that the barriers between the real world and the spirit world would be blurred during Sabhain, allowing interaction between humans and denizens of the other world. I have never heard anyone use the term denizens. Denizen, formal, humorous. How is that possible? A person, animal, or plant that is found or lives in a particular place. So, everything? Celts believed that on the night before the new year, November 1st, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead would become blurred. On the night of October 31st, they celebrated Sabhain when it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to Earth. To commemorate the event, Druids, which were Celtic priests, built huge sacred bonfires where the people gathered to burn crops and animals as sacrifices to the Celtic deities. Guess who wouldn't be wearing a costume? Come for me, spirits. It feels like this was more fun when it was a Celtic thing. I mean, I know everybody was worried about dying over the winter, but we're still worried about that now, so why not have fun? By the 9th century, the influence of Christianity had spread into Celtic lands, where it gradually blended with and supplanted older Celtic rites. We could have been dressed as weird animals, burning crops, talking to the dead, living in the moment. Instead, kids are glued to iPhones. Thanks, Christianity. Although I do feel like I'm fanning the flames by making content. Maybe this was all God's plan. In 1000 AD, the church made November 2nd All Souls Day, a day to honour the dead. It's widely believed today that the church was attempting to replace the Celtic Festival of the Dead with a related church-sanctioned holiday. It's giving Pepsi when you ordered Coke. All Souls Day was celebrated similarly to Sabhain, with big bonfires, parades, and dressing up in costumes as saints, angels, and devils. This is where some weird divinity rituals came about, which I am 100% here for. In Scotland, fortune tellers would tell young women to write the names of each of their suitors on hazelnuts and toss them into the flames of a fire. The drama. The hazelnut that turned to ashes and didn't explode or pop was the name of your future husband. What if you are the ashes? Young women would also throw apple peels over their shoulders, hoping that the peels would land on the ground in the shape of the initial of their future husband. So did everyone's name begin with C? You can really only get C, maybe U, or N. Wait, this one is my favourite. Women would stand in darkened rooms and look into mirrors, holding a candle, and search for their husband's face in the reflection. I mean, that's metal as fuck. And that's the doorbell. And we're back. How did we meet? Well, I was in my room alone, it was dark, I was holding a candle, looking in the mirror, and there he was, lurking in the shadows. Oh, this is gonna pop off. Oh no. Oh my god, I feel like this is gonna jump off of my head. All Saints' Day celebration was also called All Hallows, from Middle English All Hallowmas, meaning All Saints' Day. That was a very roundabout way to just say the same thing over and over again. So the night before All Saints' Day, which was the day of the traditional Celtic celebrations, Sabhain, became known as Hallows Eve and then eventually Halloween. So Europeans went to the Americas. The first American celebrations included play parties, which were events to celebrate the harvest. Neighbours would share stories of the dead, tell each other's fortunes, dance and sing. I think my TikTok is stuck in Halloween mode. In the second half of the 19th century, America was flooded with new immigrants. In this article, the words flooded with new immigrants are linked to another article, and it just struck me how weird it would be if that's how you found out about immigration to the Americas. Let's look up some ideas for Halloween. The Irish potato famine was bad. Borrowing from European traditions, Americans began to dress up in costumes and go house to house asking for food or money, a practice that eventually became today's trick-or-treat tradition. So this is something that the Scottish were doing. We call it guising, and the idea is that you are disguised as a malicious spirit and so are safe from harm from actual wandering spirits. And it's not a Halloween thing, it's all the time. Over in America, young women believed that on Halloween they could divine the name or appearance of their future husband by doing tricks with yarn, apple parings, or mirrors. Of course they were. Apparently that's all women did before the year 1991. Magic mirror, in the air, who is the person for whom I most care? In the late 1800s, there was a move in America to mould Halloween into a holiday more about community and neighbourly get-togethers than about ghosts, pranks and witchcraft. I mean, every occasion is about community and get-togethers. This is so boring. This is why I don't want to go to the past. At the turn of the century, however, Halloween parties for both children and adults became the most common way to celebrate the day. Parents were encouraged by newspapers and community leaders to take anything frightening or grotesque out of Halloween celebrations. When I think about community leaders, I think about that guy from Gilmore Girls, bringing the community together to trash their dreams. And isn't it funny how you grow up wanting to be Rory, and you end up as Luke? Anyway, because of these efforts, Halloween lost most of its superstitious and religious overtones by the beginning of the 20th century. But of course, movies happened. And the wonderful thing about cinema is that you can just be like, no, Halloween is scary. Reality who? When I was a wee lassie, I think in primary 5, so definitely under the age of 10, I wrote a film script about Halloween. I was really determined to become a filmmaker. And I set this film on Halloween Day, which was also Friday the 13th. And everybody that I told about this was like, well, that's not possible. Halloween is always on the 31st. And I was like, no, it can move. I think I thought because it moved day of the week each year that it could also just move date. All I really remember from my script for that Friday the 13th Halloween movie was that I was getting a bus home from school and I saw a black cat. I did not travel to school on a bus at this point in my life, so apparently that was the wells of my imagination. There was also something about mirrors and releasing ghosts, so actually I kind of made it happen in the end. If you're not into horror films because they make you feel scared, then let me enlighten you with some facts. Fear and excitement use the same parts of the nervous system. Sweaty palms, faster breathing, and a rush of blood to the vital organs. So you can train yourself to process fear as excitement instead. I did this, and now every time there's suspense in a horror film, I get totally gassed up. This is why I'm so hyped for ghosts. This Halloween, I plan to spend my time watching scary movies and eating loads of rubbish and torturing myself with monkey nuts. What do you plan to do? Carve your answer into an apple and look in the mirror, then throw it over your shoulder into a bonfire and it'll reach me. See you next time.